whether we force something to happen or not, we don't necessarily recognize some type of whiplash. And just because the whiplash sometimes doesn't happen instantaneous, that whiplash will still happen, because as you're directing your masculine point, something of a singular point, there's other feminine non-singular points that are energetically conspiring in the favor to just respond to the masculine point, to see if that masculine point is going into something of a fertile ground. So the masculine point, the intention and the initiative of a thought and an action is a masculine point, and that force, that might not be balanced. It might be imbalanced masculinity, toxic masculinity within the human being. The mindset programs and the applications of the thought programs within the human being, it's lower octave and it's detrimental. It's not balanced. It's out of balance. So since it's out of balance, when you're forcing something, we might get some type of exchange for the time being favorable, but in the long run it could be unfavorable, because we're forcing something that's not meant to be. So if you're forcing something not meant to be, it's like the divine mother and the divine nature, it's going to have a particular response. Because if you force something in a situation and someone is against that, then you might not see it, but there's other forces that are going to respond to you forcing something inappropriately, right? So you're forcing something inappropriately. And I'm going to brush my teeth right now, so so as you're forcing something inappropriately, that's the things, like the emotions and the feelings are after our actions, but we forget what the fuck we did. We're doing something to feel how we fucking feel. We're doing something to like think how we think, because it's how we're thinking is how we're acting, and how we're acting, it has a response without us knowing it has a response. Now there's a response, and now we're getting served what we deserve based on what what actions we concurred with. So as we're forcing something, we don't necessarily realize the divine feminine, quote unquote, end quote, nature has a response to how you're forcing things. And it's not to say force is bad or good. It's to see if it's toxic or not toxic. Is it for like a standard greater good? If it's not for a standard greater good, then in the 3D, it will be, the 3D is extreme like intricacy, pretty much, original open source with all the shit, because it's extreme polarities. There's extreme different types of good and bad, quote unquote, end quote, different types of extreme light and dark, quote unquote. And within that 3D, it takes certain times to register the repercussion of something, because if you're forcing something that's not in the greater good, and the different types of greater good are going to respond to the inappropriate force that the toxic individual is doing. This is real esoteric law of nature, like beyond the mind and shit, like really like how we're exchanging and reciprocating and interacting with things around us low key, but we don't know that. So as we're forcing something, it has a particular response how we're forcing it. If we're forcing it, eventually the divine feminine nature, not human females, not that, like just like the wombs of planets, the wombs that give birth to trees and give rise to water and whatnot. And I've been in the underground for 8 years, so you would have no idea what was really taught and explained unless you have an inquiry, because I understand where the human psychology is. Like I don't give a fuck on a higher octave level, you don't give a fuck on a lower octave level, and I'm perfectly okay with that. You're at where you're at, you don't understand what you don't fucking understand, respectively. And as you don't understand what you don't understand, why does that even mean shit? It doesn't mean anything. Like, you're missing out on vital information and shit. And I'm not forcing anything. I'm just expressing my piece, observing and responding to the toxic shit that's out there. You know, it takes a certain type of bravery. But the thing is, the toxic psychologies and the detrimental psychologies, it buries the bravery. We have like spiritual fear to really be who we are, to say what we really want, as opposed to some other, like, some other, like, host of us wants for us. We're responding to the host rather than what we want. So there's a lack of spiritual bravery. So if anything, from now for the rest of your mother flipping life, one of the main ingredients is bravery. Because without that bravery, then you can't make the fucking opportunity and align and balance the shit with whatever you're trying to go for, most respectively, excuse my French, to begin with. It takes some type of spiritual bravery for you to say your fucking truth. And as you're doing that, that's accumulating, and you're practicing spiritual abilities from long way back when and whatnot. Because as you're speaking your truth, it's going to cost you in the 3D, but God is perfect. God has set up the 3D to be perfect. You know, everything that bad that happens to you, God is preserving that shit, and he's compensating it on a different way that you can't understand or expect, because the 3D is some type of natural 50-50. So everything that's bad that's happened to you, some good is still waiting for you, energetically speaking, in the future, because that's the nature of duality. So we have to have, aside from bravery, we could also have some type of faith, respectively saying it. And shout out to everybody who has the same capabilities, that just want to, like, organize their lives and have a better life, you know, on a balanced, new, modern level, like with the real spirituality. So that's the difference between me and all the other people. So the message I got this morning, I was like, dude, like aside from reading the astrology and shit like that, this message is still pertinent, you know. It's just stay in your lane, you know. But that's the thing. If we force to not stay in our lane, the fucking different levels of the mechanics, they're still going to put us back in our lane. So even if we don't stay in our lane, we're still going to be put back in our lane by some different mechanics, but we don't see it like that. And we might get away for a time being. Hello 3D reality. Hello third dimension. But, like, even if we don't stay in our lane, the mechanics of nature and all the other stuff, it's going to put us back in our lane eventually. But the 3D is kind of, like, tricky, because it could slide into like chaos and shit, and like detriment shit, and then it could slide back into order and real, like, energetic benevolent shit, or like beneficial shit. So that was the message I got. Like, you know, just like stay in your lane, be brave. Maybe that bravery might be doing something for your unknown spiritual health. The unknown spiritual health is how things are being put together. And that bravery is kind of releasing old baggage. The bravery is also letting you be who you are. And the bravery is also giving an example and an inspiration for everybody else, so that bravery could actually have some real collective, real fucking spiritual health. And your fucking complaints and your unknown emotions could actually have a fucking solution, rather than just you being confused and the rage that you might have. I've been underground for 8 years. Like, and you know what, truth be told, that recent fucking podcast, because I did the one I posted like a day ago, I did that one 2 weeks ago, and I think I mentioned something about the rage, but that you could go check out that one, obviously. But the thing here is, like, the message I got here today, this morning, when I just woke up, I'm like, just stay in your, like, me talking to me, stay in your lane. And if other people don't want to stay in their lane, then they'll test reality. You're not in the same competition as me, because I have a whole different motivation. And if I have, like, different, you know, ancestral karma, and that ancestral karma somehow fucking connects to some petty ass fucking shit, okay, so be it. I think God is perfect. 3D is perfect. Somehow 3D is 50-50 nature, and then it's chaos on top of that 50-50 nature, and then it goes back to order. That's what 3D is. So 3D could be pretty difficult, right? But God has made it that way, because it's the coming together of the highest heaven and the lowest hell. And that's 3D. So they're like, God could compensate per his intention if he will, but we don't have faith in God. We misunderstand God, and all the other, like, you know, gods are after effects of God. You know, that's another thing we don't understand. So my message today was just like, stay in your lane. And if you don't want to stay in your lane, maybe you'll find out that the nature could, you know, adjust you, whatever you're putting out as far as your energies, whatever you're putting out as your energies, eventually it will get like compensated. And I'm not trying to like condemn anybody. I'm not trying to say anybody's bad or good. I'm just saying I'm trying to understand the mechanics of something bigger than the petty ass shit, you know, because we're going through life and petty ass individuals have toxic psychologies. That's just what it is. And I'm not saying that to anybody. I'm just observing the standard effect of stuff. So within that 3D right here, we're in that 3D. And if we don't have the bravery to voice that, express that, then we can't expect real change beyond Trump, because this is real fucking beneficial change in the modern time. And I'm saying that respectively, and I'm saying that neutrally, because there's a solution that's being asked for, that we're just being petty and playing with it and putting it to the side. And then, so we have no right to fucking complain too. If there's a working solution here, there's no reason to complain. But like, but obviously there's like, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And obviously, like, within the human tribulation, obviously natural, you know, complaints could arise, no shit. But like, if you have toxic psychology and mental psychology and petty complaints, there's a context of complaints. You know, human tribulation complaints, that's a different context of a complaint from toxic psychology, imaginary, made up complaint type shit, you know? So my main messages for today is like, you know, it's important to stay in your lane, because if you go out of your lane, then you're not gonna fucking focus on yourself, and you're not gonna actually do what needs to be done for you. Oh shit, didn't spill my drink. Cap on, motherfuckers. Cap on. But anyways, the messages for today was just stay in your lane, so you could actually like resume your own journey, you know? Because if you don't stay in your lane, you're gonna be distracted from your fucking shit, respectively. And if you're distracted from your fucking shit, then you could kind of maybe understand why, you know, shit happens in a detrimental way. But shit's gonna happen anyways, you know, whether it's detrimental, whether it's beneficial, or, you know, whether it's, you know, something otherworldly. Shit's just gonna happen. That's just what life is. It's how you respond and how you deal with it, and that's how God sees if you're like spiritually mature and ready for whatever the fuck you really want. And did you sell yourself out? If you sold yourself out, then there's gonna be work to do for God, because you went away from God. So if you went away from God, now you want to go back to God, and I'm speaking out on a universal level, then what work do you think has to be fucking done? Diddy ducking done. So that's the thing. The messages I got today was just stay in your lane, maybe be brave, and God is perfect low key. Because there's a preservation factor within the 50-50 nature mechanics of 3D. We have to be grateful that we're still in the fucking runnings for 3D. We're not dead and deincarnating. That, like, you know, you could say like the quote unquote animal realms, end quote, that's a tier under 3D. That's like the first level of quote unquote metaphorical hell, end quote. Not literally like a metaphysical, like the animal realm. Because in the animals, they're fucking like their tit for tat is way different, right? It's worse, because they actually like they'll fucking like and then after that, if you incarnate after the animals, and I understand all that reincarnation, you know, mechanic stuff, that's also being updated, because obviously it's like, because obviously, like, some scriptures will say if you eat meat, you'll go here. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think that's like, maybe that was just like an honest, like, you know, error, you know, or because like just for critical thinking, you know, because I eat meat, my human body needs meat, and that's just what it is. And I still do it for, like, you know, God, and like God is everything. So like there has to be some critical thinking, because in some of the scriptures, regardless of the religion or the holy text, they were writing it that for that time, you know, for how they understood it, you know, for what the environment and for what their geopolitics challenges were facing, you know. And I know that I understand there's nuances for this, but like, I just think, you know, some texts could be like kind of like exaggerating, like if you eat meat you'll go here. I don't think that's necessarily true, but like, and I'm not trying to get too ranty. Let me check the time. 2:38. So that's my message. It's like for today, it's like just stay in your lane, maybe be brave. God is perfect. And we don't realize energetically we shit on God, and we're okay with that. And people don't give a fuck about that. And I'm okay with that because this is real advanced intelligence. So it's like one thing that's always being asked, it's real critical thinking. If you don't got critical thinking, maybe because you have some fog, toxic psychology that has some inner bias catering to a different host bias, whoever your leader is, whoever your boss is, that is controlling you, you know, shout out to the predecessors, like, you know, who's controlling who type of shit, you know, shout out to the predecessors. Because obviously that's a whole different discussion, right? And people don't even know, people have no idea because we're just, they're no offense, but they're just like, you know, they're new to this shit. And if they don't choose the balanced road and they want to dwell on, you know, irrelevant shit and disregard the solution, then that's where your intelligence is at, you know? So the message here was like, you know, stay in your lane so you could focus on yourself. Be brave. Maybe the most underrated principle of all life is bravery. And God is perfect. Have a great life.